I'll be discussing would be the Adnan the Third or Three, made by Magdalena Abakanowicz, made from burlap, resin, wood, nails, and string. It was made in Poland, dating back to 1985. The Adnan the Third is a figure that is on a short wooden stretcher, which acts as a substitute for the legs of the unknown person. Abakanowicz figures are most likely androgynous, with their sexual characteristics de-emphasized. The artist wants the viewer to focus on the humanity of the figures rather than their gender. There is a fragmentary nature of the figures. A distinguishing feature of the burlap cast is the wrinkled skin and the implementation of the backbones, musculature, and veins. It is hollowed out. A shell made out of hardened fiber cast, which has the appearance of wrinkled human skin made from plaster, a natural medium that was used by Abakanowicz. The bodies, or body parts, more accurately, are intended to be seen in the round, as the hollow interior is as much a part of the piece as the molded exterior, because space is as significant as mass in her works. Like the Adnan uses the same molded torso shell, Abakanowicz also employs this in her sculpture series Backs, made in 1976 to 1980. This piece is made out of the same materials such as burlap, resin, and wood. Yet, unlike the Adnan, the Back series, however, in which uses the figures sits directly on the floor, while the Adnan torsos are seated on low stretchers of wooden legs. The effects of such seated figures and backs can be chilling and is often understood as expressing dehumanization in the 20th century. In these works, the same shape is repeated, but the surface of each figure has an individual texture. It can also be noted that the interior of both works are hollow, a result of Abakanowicz's unique handling of materials. To specify on what the Adnan 3 was really made for, it could be seen that this figure has no literal function, but intended by the artist's intent, it was made to have multiple viewpoints, and it was encouraged by the artist, as Abakanowicz intended its main function to express the dehumanization and suffering in today's world from the brutality of World War II that is mournful and disturbing. It is also a political weapon responding to totalitarian states and Soviet and communist leadership. It is reflecting humanity in regards with war and totalitarian states, showing the physical and spiritual human condition as well as their existence resulting from such human experiences. Abakanowicz draws on her personal history, especially for many of her sculptures and this work, Adnan 3, as she reflects the time she spent working in a hospital during World War II and her memories of the attack on her mother, having her arm shot off by a communist soldier. The time period of her adolescence and young adult years is portrayed through the fragmentary nature of the figure, for her and her family were deprived of their social position and thrown out of society. They were punished for being rich, and was forced to lose their identity and lifestyle. This is reflected through the factors of vulnerability and dehumanization that the figure depicts, with the position of the torso, wrinkled skin, and hollow interior. The artist doesn't want to have the viewer care for the gender, but the person itself, to give off a loss of identity and place, similar to the experience of Abakanowicz herself. Due to the increase of totalitarian and communist powers in the areas of Europe during World War II, many people who were descendants or part of rich and wealthy family lines have been brutally tormented and harassed, like the family of Abakanowicz. During World War II, she witnessed many atrocities by the hand of the Germans. After the war, She and her family, like many other families, had to hide their aristocratic background in a now communist Poland. Abakanowicz was taught to create art in the social realism genre. In 1987, Abakanowicz began creating forms made with fabric and tapestry, and also experimented with other natural mediums, all inspired by the events of World War II in Europe. Moving on to another piece of art, the female deity made by the Nakuru peoples out of wood from Nakuru Micronesian islands dating back to the 18th and 19th century CE. The female deity is a figure that is a wooden sculpture that is 40 meters high. It is made from the breadfruit tree specifically, and the figures all have ovoid heads, discrete or missing facial features, with a flat buttocks or behind, and flexed legs. The sculpture has proportions that can be seen, an ovoid head tapering slightly at the chin and a columnar neck. The eyes and nose are either discretely shown as slits or not at all. The shoulder slopes downwards and the chest is indicated by a simple line. It is hard to determine the sex and has a sketchy indication of hands and feet. It was either carved using an adze with the clamshell blades or traditional European tools, and the surfaces were smooth with pumice, which was abundantly available on the beach on those islands. Here is another form of what a female deity from the Nakuru peoples would also look like. This has very similar characteristics compared to the female deity shown before, yet it has more implemented facial features and details, which kind of makes it different. Yet it is good to know that female deities have been evolved in the civilization of the Nakuru peoples, especially before European contact. Now, going back to the previous artwork mentioned, the Andrewen III, made by Abakanowicz, a similarity that can be made between that previous artwork and the female deity is that, first of all, they're both figures, and they're both made out of earthly materials and mediums, such as wood, a big example, and there's one specific way in which they're both similar is that there is a lack of indication of gender within both works of art. Other than the similarities made between the two artworks through form, other than that, in the other aspects of these two artworks, there isn't that much that is similar. Like the function, which the female deity was actually used for something. It was used for religious purposes, representing a specific deity relating to a specific family group, priest, or temple in which the people of Nakuru would worship. It was also ritually used for special annual harvest rituals. It was given food offerings, and there was more religious practices revolving around the presence of a female deity prior to the introduction of Christianity to the society, in which then those practices were no longer practiced. Nakuru deities were believed to inhabit wooden figures called Tino Autu, which is why the Nakuru peoples built these wooden figures to worship, and it was vital for them to have these figures be ready to take on the deity's vital force during each festival and have them take on the deity's identities, which is a reason why there may be a lack of facial detail and flexed legs to provide a blank canvas. A small indication of a gender of the figure would be the triangular shape of the pelvis, which indicates that it's a female, yet overall the figure still lacks a clear indication of its gender. It is also important to know that these deities were made before the contact with Europeans in Nakuru society, when the generations of the rulers were passed down no matter the gender. Eventually, trade with Europeans had begun due to the geographic location of Micronesia in the 1830s, which led to the religion of Protestantism spreading and the end of the religious and original beliefs of the Nakuro society.